belong to you.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Good Vibes Club. I am very excited to record this episode for you today. So we're going to be talking all about things like leaving your comfort zone and how the magic happens when you just step outside of that box and just let things go. So without further ado, we're going to get into recording. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of the Good Vibes Club, and in perfect timing, my next door neighbour's fire alarm keeps going off, so I don't know what they're doing. They must be cooking lunch because it's 12:30, but the fire alarm just keeps going off, so hopefully you can't hear it because it's gone off about 3 times now, and hopefully whatever is happening in there is resolved because I'm assuming they've just burnt some toast. But welcome back. What a start to an episode. I honestly can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for tuning back in. I'm so glad that you guys are loving the return of season 2 and the first episode. I can't believe the response I've had to it. I've had so many listens and it's blowing my mind, and you guys are sending me so many amazing messages, and I'm just really grateful for each and every one of you. I know I can be a bit terrible at replying, so bear with me. I will get round to replying to all of you as much as possible, but there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, so I'm a little bit MIA at the moment, which is intentional and accidental at the same time. But when it comes around and you realise what I'm doing, you're going to be really grateful that I was behind the scenes and doing all these things, because big things are coming and I cannot wait to talk to you about them. And that's actually kind of what inspired this episode actually. So today we're going to be talking all about leaving your comfort zone and finding the magic, which is a big topic, and I've wanted to talk about this kind of thing for a while. I've hinted at it through a few episodes and talked like vaguely on leaving your comfort zone, but I wanted to make a big episode just talking about the art of leaving your comfort zone and finding the magic, because honestly your comfort zone is a nice cozy little safe space to be, and we all love just sitting in that comfort and just not really pushing ourselves, letting ourselves stay in that job, stay in that house, stay in that like mode that we're in where we just want to be comfortable. And if you're like me and you're a Cancer, we like being in our little shells and just being in our homes and just hiding away from the world. And there is so much magic that happens when you choose to leave your comfort zone, and I want to inspire you to get out of your shell and to go for it through this episode. So I'm going to share with you a few little things I've learned from doing so. We're going to just have a big kind of general chat. I haven't really planned this episode out too much because I wanted it to be a little bit more spontaneous and candid and raw, so bear with me, might get a little bit scatty, we know what I'm like, but yeah, I think the best place to start is going to be our good vibe of the week, isn't it? So my good vibe of the week is one that I can't necessarily talk about, which is super annoying, but it will all make sense in a couple of days time, because the first episode has just gone up, and you will be, as this episode goes up, seeing the thing that is making me leave my comfort zone and is my good vibe of the week. Honestly, I wish I could say more than that right now, but you'll see tonight if you're watching this at the time of it going up, or listening even. But there's big things happening, and I'm very excited, and it's made me very anxious, very much pushed me out of my comfort zone, and like I said, sparked this entire episode. So let's talk about this comfort zone, shall we? So I was once told by someone in my life a big statement that was, magic happens when you leave your comfort zone. And it sounds like a really basic statement, but this statement came to me in a text message at a time in my life when I really needed it, and it was the best piece of advice I'd ever been given. So I was actually, when I got this text, boarding a flight for my first accidental solo trip to Greece. And I say accidental because this is a whole story for another time, but I basically was meant to be going with a couple of friends. For various different reasons they couldn't come. It got to the point where we were literally driving to the airport, me and one of the girls, and I had to get on this plane by myself, and it was terrifying. I was crying my eyes out, and I just remember being like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? But that text message was sent to me just before taking off. So I was sat on the plane, I was waiting for the plane to like start going up, you know, just before you turn your airplane mode on and stuff. And it's the best piece of advice I've ever been given. And to this day, if something makes me feel uncomfortable, I remember that text message and I remember that quote, and I just remember sitting crying my eyes out on that flight thinking, oh my god, what are you talking about? That is such a ridiculous statement. But it turned out to be one of the best trips of my entire life that shaped me not only into the person that I am today, but also taught me to believe in myself and taught me the magic of leaving my comfort zone. And up until that point, I would say I'd left my comfort zone a few times. Like, I'm very much someone who just follows my heart, and there's a few different situations like getting into college and stuff where I had to leave my comfort zone, but that was the first time I ever really felt like I'd just really gone for it and been like, do you know what, screw this, I'm just going to do it, and it's going to be the best thing I ever did. And it was. And that trip is what ignited my love for travelling. It was the first time I'd really been on holiday with, well, supposedly to be with friends, but it didn't end up being that way. But it was one of my first trips without like parents and stuff. It was one of my first big adventures with friends. It was what sparked my endless love for travel. And if you followed me back then, it was just after my med sailors trip, like my sailing trip, and I ended up doing the solo one. The YouTube vlog is actually still up on my channel if you want to check it out. It was in about 2016, I want to say, so quite a few years ago now. And it just ignited this absolute burning desire for me to travel. And it really taught me a lot about who I am, what I want from my life. And I honestly do not think that if I'd stayed at home, I would have the love that I have for travel. I don't think I'd have travelled as much. I don't think I'd maybe have quit my job and done this full time, which I've been doing full time now since 2016 actually. Well, was it 2016 or 2017? I can't remember, but either way, I've been doing like social media full time, my only income for that long. And it just really sparked so many parts of who I am today. And it's all because of that one statement. Like, I could easily have sat on that flight and thought, do you know what? Like, I could have, for one, not got on the plane. I could have just turned around and been like, you lot are crazy, I'm not going on my own, like, get me back in that car and I'm going home. But I just remember standing there with my friend's mum, and she was like, you can't let all of you lose all this money, like, you have to go and enjoy it for all of you. And I did, and then I got this text, and then it just, like, I can't explain to you how much it's the best thing I ever did. And even down to little decisions on an everyday basis, like moving back home. I lived in London on my own, and I was terrified of moving back home because I thought I'd miss London. I thought I would want to move back again straight away and I wouldn't be able to afford to or something. I was really, really terrified to leave London. And again, best thing I ever did. I have less anxiety now I've moved back. I am closer to my friends. I have a beautiful view out of my window that I would never ever have had in London. If you've seen pictures of my flat, you know I've got these beautiful, beautiful windows, which I'm actually sat recording in front of now with the sun on my back, and it's beautiful. But I have these gorgeous, gorgeous windows, and the flat I have is the exact same size, if not a tiny bit bigger than the one I had in London. And the one I had in London was about £800 more a month. And it's one of the best things I ever did. And I just can't believe how much magic happens when you leave your comfort zone. And I think at this stage of life, which a lot of us are in, so if you are, and I think a lot of you who listen to this podcast are probably in an era of life where you are late 20s, early 30s, and you are in that zone where you're maybe thinking about leaving a job, changing career, maybe changing relationship, or going through a new part of a relationship where you are getting married or moving in together or getting babies and stuff. Getting babies is not that easy, but you know what I mean. And you're just changing and evolving in all these ways that scare you. And even things like having a baby and getting married are out of your comfort zone, because it's not something that you're comfortable in. It's not your body's like, it's not the zone that your brain has got used to being in, if that makes sense. Like, your comfort zone is basically the state of being where your brain feels comfortable. It's all those daily habits, it's all those things that keep you ticking along subconsciously, down to like if you go to the gym every morning, or you wake up and always have the same cup of coffee, or you go to your job and you wear the same few items of clothing in your wardrobe. Like, those are all your comfortable habits, and it's breaking those comfortable habits to form new habits that push you out of your comfort zone and ultimately lead you to becoming your highest self. Because if it's something that is in your line of thought, it's something that the universe is trying to make you think about, and that's super important. So I'll give you a good example here. I have listened to podcasts for years and years and years and years and years. I remember sitting in my flat in London during COVID and listening to them. I remember before that listening to them, and I've just always loved listening to a podcast and found so much comfort in hearing people talk about things. And I think podcasts are a great way to get a really wide berth of knowledge about so many different things, more so than reading. Obviously, if you want to sit and read a book, then I completely think you can get knowledge there too. But I think the conversations that I had in podcasts are so inspiring, and I had always thought about starting my own. And whenever I listened to them, I would always think about, like, what would I talk about if I had my own podcast? What would I have as topics? Who would I have as a guest? What would I do? Where would I record it? How would it work? What would happen? And I just remember thinking for so long that I desperately wanted to start this podcast. And I think I've talked about this a few times before, but I was sat with my boyfriend and I just decided to buy a microphone. I did about 2 minutes of research and I thought, do you know what, I know this brand is really good, I think I'm just going to buy this microphone and I'm just going to go for it. And it turned up, and I just remember being like, well, shit, what do I do now? Like, what? Like, I've got this microphone, but now what? Like, what software do I need? What do I do? Where do I record? What do I do? And the amount of times I cried because I didn't know what to do, and I felt so overwhelmed and so out of my comfort zone and so scared because I just had no idea what was going on and what to do. And that was where the magic was, because the fact that I sat and researched, with the help of James obviously, but I sat and researched everything. I spoke to friends, I spoke to my boyfriend, I spoke to like people that were in the industry already, and I slowly learned the things I needed to know to be able to do this podcast. And I'm quite proud to say that I record by myself, I edit by myself, everything I do pretty much is by myself. So I have actually had to learn these skills. I haven't just like gone to a studio and hired an editor and stuff. Like, I've actually really sat and learned these skills. I did initially use a studio and an editor, but I did think, actually, I'd like to know all of this myself, because if I'm going to fully commit, I want to know that I'm fully committing and I'm giving my all to it. So I have learned the skills of editing. I've learned how to record by myself. I'm setting up a little studio at home to do everything. And I really have committed to like learning as much as I possibly can about podcasting. And as I say, had I not have had those tears, which proved to me that I was leaving my comfort zone, and had I not have really persisted and pushed through, the Good Vibes Club would not exist. This podcast you're listening to would not exist. It would not be here, it would not be a thing, it would just be something in my mind that wasn't happening yet. And even since I started it, it's evolving into way more than I ever thought it would be. There's so many things happening that I can't wait to share with you, and it's become something that is so much bigger because I let that magic happen, and because I trusted the universe that if that thought was in my head, it meant that it needed to become a thing. And if something is in your brain, it's there for a reason. That's the one thing I really want to stress in this. And if you are thinking of something and you want to do it, don't be put off by the fear. Don't be put off by the fact that you don't know if it's going to work out, because what if it does work out? What if it does happen? What if you do that thing and it's the best thing you've ever done in your life? Yes, you might fail. Yes, it might become a learning curve instead of like a massive big brand business or something. But the art is in trying, and the art is in trusting your magic and trusting the universe to take you out of your comfort zone into something better, because your higher self is always one decision away, and you could become the best version of yourself if you just trust that magic and you trust that leaving your comfort zone is the best thing you're ever going to do. So one thing I really want to inspire you with is that art of trying. So as I'm talking, you're probably sitting there thinking of some particular thing in your brain that is something you've always wanted to do, or a situation you've always wanted to happen, whether that's trying for a baby, whether that's buying a house, whether that's starting a business in something really rogue that you've always wanted to start, whether that's writing a book, whether that's auditioning for West End, I don't know, anything. It could be absolutely anything, but it's something that you deem right now as being hard to achieve, and I promise you it's not. If it's in your heart, it's there for a reason. It's a desire, and you need to lean into it, and you need to trust it, and you need to go with it, and you need to just take the steps. And the one thing James was saying to me earlier, actually, which is something that I think is quite a good, important part of this, is to write a list. And it sounds so silly, but to me, when I have a big overwhelming thing in front of me like I do right now, the biggest thing I can do is write a list. Start with everything I need to do to achieve that thing, and start working through the things in order. So do I need to work something out and hire, I don't want to give away what I'm doing. I really don't want to give away what I'm doing. But say, for example, you wanted to start a business where you write a book. You want to be an author, right? So what kind of book are you going to publish? You need to think about these things. You need to write down your mood board. You need to write down, say I'm looking at a book from The White Company right now, which is obviously a home book. Let's use that as an example. You want to write a home book. You need to be thinking about how you're going to do it, contacting publishers. You need to find a manufacturer for the book. You need to find a photographer or learn how to use a camera to do it yourself. You need to curate the pages. Do you hire someone to do that? Do you do it yourself? There's so many different parts of that dream that can be broken down really easily into more bite-sized chunks. Say maybe you want a career change and you want to become, I don't know, say you're a vet and you've decided you want to work in, I don't know, cupcake making, right? These are very random things I'm thinking of. But you need to look up how you get there. Do you need to do a cooking course? Do you need to learn how to bake? Maybe you can already bake, maybe you're really good. Start taking pictures of your recipes, start uploading them to TikTok, etc. There's a million different things that you can do to get you where you want to be that seem really daunting because you're looking at the big overall goal, But once you break them down into more bite-sized chunks, those things are kind of like ladder rungs that you're almost like ticking off as you get closer and closer to the goal. And along the way, things will get easier. You'll learn more. Like, genuinely, when I say to you, I did not think I would ever be able to record a podcast. I didn't know how the hell I would ever record it. I didn't know how to edit it. I didn't know how to use the software. And now I'm coming to the awkward part of where I need to start learning how to put 2 mics into my computer and recording 2 people at once. Like, that's a whole other ball game. And it's little things like that that you need to learn about, but once you've learned, you know. Like, I take for granted the fact that I know how to edit a YouTube video, for example. A lot of people don't know how to do that, but to me it's second nature, and those things do become second nature over time. A baker, it's second nature to know what ingredients go in that recipe. A writer, it's second nature to know how to contact publishers and stuff like that. Someone who renovates properties knows the right contacts to have, but someone starting out and that's new doesn't know these things. Like, it's a learning curve, and it's one of those things where just pushing past that little bit of resistance in your comfort zone and just allowing yourself to really just go for it. Just get out there, go for it, and just really become the person that you've always wanted to be, and just live beyond your wildest desires too. But I hope that you guys have found a lot of comfort through this episode. I know it's not the longest episode in the world, and it's been quite a bite-sized chunk, but I feel like I really want to get through to you today that leaving your comfort zone is the best thing you'll ever do. And I know there's going to be something in your mind right now that you're thinking about, and you're really wondering whether that's your thing. And if you're thinking it, I promise you it's your thing. I promise you it's something to lean into. I promise you it's something that could take you to the next level of your life. It could make you become a part of your highest self. And I think it is something that will be, whatever it is, whatever desire it is that's in your heart right now, is worth trying. Because if you try, it could be the best thing you've ever done in the world. It might not be the way that you always planned it to be, but it's typical universe, this or something better. And I just want you to lean into that. And by the time the next episode rolls around, I want you to have either taken a step towards that thing, or maybe just tried to kind of journal it out and just see what you think. Because sometimes when you journal it out, you realise that actually that's just you having a bit of a daydream. And it's actually something slightly different that's your focus. Maybe you started off thinking you want to write an interiors book, and you realise actually you just want to be an interior designer, or actually you just want to like be a novelist, I don't know. But it's I'm mixing up my words. I'm very warm right now, and it's very distracting. But I just think your comfort zone is such an important topic, and I hope I've got through to you the importance of giving it a try. And when my big new shiny squeaky reveal is launched, you will understand just how much I am passionate about this, because honestly the last 2 weeks have been so full of constant worry. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the thing I'm meant to be doing? How am I going to do this? Is this going to cost me a fortune? I don't have a fortune. Is this going to be something that maybe sets me back a few years in terms of finances? Am I risking everything? Is this going to pay off? Are people going to like it? Is this going to be a good idea? Like, there's so many doubts in my mind, and having to sit with those doubts and journal about what I think could go wrong and what I think could go right, and just leaning into the fact that I know this is something I'm meant to be doing, and I know this is the universe putting me on the right path, is very helpful for one, but also giving me that little bit of comfort, because I'm not even kidding you. I've been laying awake at night worrying about my next steps in this, because I'm putting so much into the Good Vibes Club, and I really hope it pays off. And this is not me meaning to make this a negative, by the way. I'm just trying to explain to you that, like, right now I'm in the midst of the uncomfort, and I've gone past the comfort zone. I'm sitting in that uncomfort, and I'm really like, just, you know, I'm in the trenches right now. I'm in the mud. I am stuck. I am very much there, and I can see the light. I just need to get to the light, if that makes sense. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you got a lot of inspiration from it. I did initially intend for this to be a little bit about Tough Mudder, because that was kind of what I talked about before. I wanted to bring the fact that I'd done Tough Mudder into leaving my comfort zone, but I've ended up kind of just letting my thoughts go, and I really wanted this episode to be more of a ramble than a planned, like, me sitting down and thinking it through and talking about it in a million different ways. Like, I wanted to just let my thoughts flow, and hopefully you liked it. I know it's been a bit of a ramble, but if you liked this episode, don't forget to go and give it a little rate and a follow if you like the podcast. I know you can follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are listening through Apple, I'd really appreciate a review if you've got the time, because it really helps people to find this podcast. Recommend to a friend, you know the drill, guys. All the good stuff that helps other people to find this podcast and help them to live their best life too. But without further ado, I'm going to round off here and I'll see you in the next episode.